Nightline, brought to you by National Mutual.
Good evening, I'm Peter Hitchener, and the debate over the importation and ownership of dangerous dogs is sure to be revived again following today's attack in which a bull terrier killed a 2-month-old baby in Sydney. The boy was dragged from his bassinet by the family dog while the child's mother was hanging out washing. Efforts to resuscitate the boy failed, and his mother is tonight under sedation. The attack comes 6 months after a study found bull terriers to be the most dangerous dog in Australia. And drama at Sydney's Bankstown Airport with a light aircraft crashing on the runway early tonight. The right wheel of the Cessna collapsed when it hit the tarmac, but the pilot and his passenger walked away unhurt. 2 Brisbane men are recovering after being given up for dead when their boat sank last night in Moreton Bay. Tracy Dale says the pair spent 7 hours in the water without life jackets.
A fellow sailor alerted police just after 6 o'clock last night. Distraught, friends and family watched from the shore as a rescue helicopter and a number of boats combed the bay. After 7 hours drifting in high seas, the men were rescued and the ordeal was over. In Sydney, 2 fishermen were rescued by helicopter in blustery conditions at the Gap. One man was badly injured at the bottom of the cliff and a second was stuck halfway up. The fisherman stranded on the cliff was brought to safety. He'd been too terrified to move after his friend fell 10 metres. The second fisherman was then winched into the chopper, suffering face injuries and fractures, and is now in intensive care at Prince Henry Hospital. And in Melbourne, a quiet day's fishing for 2 friends went very wrong after their moored boat was hit by a storm front off St Kilda. After they tried to move off, the anchor rope fouled the propeller and their 18-footer began taking water. The 2 fishermen had to be rescued from the bay after they were pitched into the water at the height of the squall. Their boat sank without trace. Tracy Dale, National 9 News.
Household insurance costs are set to rise by hundreds of dollars a year as the insurance industry grapples with a sharp increase in fraudulent claims brought on by the recession. Hugh Remington reports.
It's now clear that the earthquake that devastated the city of Newcastle nearly 2 years ago also caused lasting damage to the insurance industry. $900 million was paid out in claims. Since then, a series of storms across Australia have kept up the financial pressure. A single hailstorm in Sydney cost insurers $360 million. With insurance companies' usual investment income cut by the lingering effects of the stock market crash, the property slump and now falling interest rates, a rise in fraud was the last thing the companies or their honest policyholders needed. Payouts to suspected fraudulent claims now total an estimated $1.7 billion a year. That's $100 for every Australian. And that will show through in premiums.
There's a huge pressure, though, for them to rise. There's no question about that. Premiums will rise reasonably significantly over the next period of time.
The insurance industry says community attitudes must be changed so insurance fraud is condemned like any other criminal behaviour. Hugh Remington, National 9 News.
There's new hope in Lebanon tonight that another Western hostage will soon be freed. A leading Shiite cleric says a Briton will be released within the next 24 hours. Either Anglican Church envoy Terry Waite or former World War II fighter pilot Jackie Mann. And one of the world's most famous masterpieces has been vandalised in Italy. Stunned visitors to the Academy Gallery in Florence watched as a man began smashing Michelangelo's statue of David with a hammer. He managed to break off one of the toes before police dragged him away. Fortunately, staff retrieved the broken pieces and expect to have the damage repaired in a few days. After 40 years, one of the most romantic names in motoring history is back with a new model. Bugatti has unveiled the EB10 in Paris, named after company founder Ettore Bugatti. It's a car lover's dream, capable of up to 355 kilometres an hour. Not only will prospective buyers need around $1 million to own the new car, but they'll also have to convince Bugatti officials they're not just investment speculators. To football, and Canberra has overcome a gallant North Sydney to make it into next week's Rugby League Grand Final. It was a classic comeback by the Raiders, who were trailing 12-0, but stormed back to win 30-14. And in AFL, the West Coast Eagles are back in the premiership race after crushing Melbourne in a one-sided semi-final today. The Eagles ran out victors by 38 points. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather. Showers in Melbourne, Perth and Adelaide, fine in the other capitals. That's the news for the moment. Good night.
This has been a National 9 News presentation.